So what are we looking at today, Dale?
We're looking at Matthew 5, verse 30. And this is in the Sermon on the Mount. And it's called the Sermon on the Mount because Jesus is like this new Moses who gave the law from the Mount Sinai. And the law, I mean, it's worth noticing that the law, when Moses gave it, was kind of like a reflection of the issues that people faced in everyday life. Some major issues are, for example, murder and adultery. Not good. So they made a law against those things.
Our verse of the day this morning was from, by the way, killing people bad.
It's bad.
Let's lock that in.
That's right.
Let's all agree here.
Exactly.
Anyway, no, but our verse of the day today was from Deuteronomy.
Was
it?
They're
going through exactly these things. And he's like, as the people of Israel, you will follow these things. They talk about murder. They talk about other things. They talk about moving boundaries. They talk about not looking after the fatherless children, the vulnerable, all this sort of stuff. And they're basically like, we agree as the people of God that this is our code.
That's right.
This is what we live by.
Yeah. And of course, fast forward to Jesus, and like it turns out that having rules to say that stuff is wrong doesn't necessarily stop people from doing it.
If only it was that easy.
Exactly. So he gets to this part of the Sermon on the Mount, and he's done all the introductory stuff, and he starts to get into these issues, and he's trying to get people past the legal level to the heart level. So he's like, yeah, there's a rule against murder, but you're still angry with people, and it's leading to murder. And the second thing that he deals with is lust that leads to adultery. Yeah, we can have a rule that says don't commit adultery, but what about your heart that's lusting? And so he unpacks a really practical principle here, and he's like, you've got to do whatever it takes to deal with the lust in your heart. Otherwise, eventually, it's going to lead to sexual chaos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He does say if your right eye causes you to sin, gouge it out.
Yes.
He doesn't tell you what implement to use, but it's
That's
inferred. Right. And then if your right hand causes you to sin, cut it off.
Yes.
Like, I hope no one's taking that literally, but was that what it was intended for these people?
I mean, look.
You would hope not.
It's a bit like when people say that one team beats another team, they say they slaughtered them. You know, they totally obliterated, they flattened them or whatever. You know, it's like
decimated
that's
them.
the way language works. Like Jesus is like, be rigorous with this, be ruthless with yourself. You know, do whatever it takes, do extreme actions. It should probably inconvenience you. You know, and I know of some people that struggle with like spending all their day on social media. And it's not, maybe they're not even looking at inappropriate content. They just know that they're kind of addicted to their phones. And so they've gone for a brick phone or a dumb phone or whatever. There's certain ways of trying to just de-appify my life or something, you know?
My wife bought me one of those dumb phones.
Really?
Because I was like, oh, that's what I need. I'm addicted to this thing. I need to cut this out. I need to cut it off. So she got me one of those phones, and it was one that you had to go back to. You remember old school texting?
Oh,
where you
my
had to
gosh.
press the 2-3 times to get to the letter C. And then if you wanted to, you know, like, bro.
5 minutes in, I've just said the word hello.
I know.
You know?
I don't text a lot of people normally, but that brought me down to like, I just couldn't even use it. I was like, this is driving me wild. I need something in between the two.
Do you remember the young kids could text like that under the table?
Oh,
yeah.
I remember high school, we'd text in our pocket. Like, you just do it all by feel and by muscle memory.
How could you know that?
But the skill has left me, right? But I guess it's about taking action on something that when you find a problem in your life, you're like, this is no good for me. It's no good for others.
Yes.
It's a problem. Actually addressing it rather than just being like, oh, I should try not to do that.
And Jesus makes a distinction here that's really useful because he uses the language of hell, and we'll get to that in just a moment. But so sin lust can often start quite small, and then it spreads like cancer through the whole body and our whole lives, right? And so effectively, again, Jesus is using very evocative language, extreme language. Gouge out your eye, cut off your hand, body going into hell. It's extreme language, but it'll wreck your life. Lust and adultery and murder and murderous rage and greed and insecurity and fear, the things that he teaches about, he's not just talking about after we die, going to hell. There's like 3 levels. Like your life now will be kind of just awful and toxic and hellish. There was an event coming up around the time of the writing of the Gospels, AD 70, where the people of God needed to find ways to be peaceful. Otherwise, Rome was going to come in and smash them. That was another level of hell. And then there's the ultimate level. Yeah, like if we set our lives on a trajectory that's anti-God, we're choosing our fate for ourselves.
We're looking at Matthew 5 today. So you've been on this kind of a Sermon on the Mount vibe for a while.
Yeah.
Have you been teaching on this?
Yeah, the church I go to, we did like a 6-sermon series on it, and it's kind of lit my fire for the Sermon on the Mount as like the fundamental set of teachings that Jesus gave us so that we would live lives that are shockingly loving and human.
Well, in Matthew 5, verse 27, it starts. It's Jesus talking about adultery, and he says, you shouldn't commit adultery. Everyone nods in agreement. Yep. They're like, yeah, amen. That sounds good.
Good idea.
But then he says, but I tell you, anyone who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart. People are like, oh. And then it says, if your eye causes you to sin, gouge it out. If your hand causes you to sin, cut it off.
Yeah.
And he also says, better to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to be thrown into hell.
That's right.
These pretty extreme words and language all around here.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, if people are just joining and didn't hear the first segment, we talked about how Jesus is using very extreme language, to talk about how extremely damaging this kind of stuff is. Murder is really, really damaging.
Yeah.
And so he's like, being angry, you'll be guilty of hellfire. Like this, you're stoking the fires of hell with your anger that will turn into murder. And you're stoking the fires of hell for sexual chaos in your life and just toxicity in your life by lusting after people. It spreads. It doesn't get better. It only gets worse unless you deal with it.
The language around being thrown into hell because of this kind of thing, is there a danger of people reading that and then thinking, okay, well, I've definitely looked at things I shouldn't have, and therefore he says that looking at something is the same as doing it. Therefore, basically, am I condemned to hell for the things that I have done?
Yeah. So it's there's 3 levels, and again, we kind of talked about this, like. The first level of teaching that Jesus is immediately giving here is that sort of your life right now will be hell if you let these things dominate your life.
Yeah.
There is a geeky kind of theological, biblical, nerdy kind of level that focuses on what happened around the time these Gospels were being written, around AD 70.
Yeah.
Because people were wanting to revolt against the Roman Empire, and they needed to learn the things that make for peace, and how to be really differently human and not revolt again, not be angry and murderous towards the Roman Empire. So that's another level of like hell is coming with General Titus, and he's going to sack the temple and destroy the city.
Right, with
the
the existence that you're going to be living in.
There'll be fire, there'll be blood. It's going to be hell in Jerusalem. But then there is this ultimate level of like, if I choose to reject Christ's teaching and reject his mercy and love and grace and set my life on a self-satisfying, self-gratifying, self-willed path, I'm choosing an ultimate destiny for myself, and that's a reality, So there's 3 levels there.
What do you think about because, Jesus is making this example of like, even if you're looking at someone inappropriately, that's the same as adultery.
Yeah.
But then is he really entirely saying that, or is that the takeaway that people should have? Because if I cheated on my wife, which I have not done, but if I did, I imagine I would feel terrible. I would be devastated. I would hate myself. Why did I do this? Like, what mistake have I made? All these kind of feelings. But if you notice someone attractive and you look at them for a bit too long, and then you're like, I probably should stop doing that. You don't have the same feeling of guilt or shame, or is he saying that you should take it to the same level? Like, dipping your toes in the water is the same as jumping off a wharf? Like, because I don't think people would sort of feel that way. But is it saying that you should?
I think Jesus wants us to have a reaction to lust and sin that is not calloused, and where we get more and more comfortable with it, because that's how it progresses.
Yeah.
He wants us
the slippery slope.
He wants us to have a sensitive heart on this. I don't think that he wants us to live our lives in constant dread and fear of judgment for doing things that are ordinary in the human life.
Yeah.
The Bible assumes the Sermon on the Mount. It assumes that we're going to potentially be led into temptation, so we pray against that. And there will be temptation, so we need to identify what's causing that. I don't think he's wanting us to live our lives in total dread and fear and guilt and shame. And on those 2 words, guilt and shame, I think there are obviously negative forms of guilt, negative forms of shame, feeling, like just stuck in guilt, stuck in shame. I'm bad. Oh, look at me. There can be helpful forms of guilt, like if someone does something without shame, they're shameless in it. Like it's almost like they're not feeling the right feelings that go with doing those things. So there's some kind of feelings that are human, and they help me steer myself back to the path.
Well, it's unnatural to have no guilt or shame about things that are wrong. Like if you steal something from someone and you have no guilt or shame about it, that's a bad place to be. Like,
so there's like two wicked extremes. One is like that, like I'm just oppressed by guilt and shame and stuck. It's not helping me. And then there's like another extreme where it's like,
I feel nothing.
Hey, it's all good, mate. So we should have sensitive hearts, and that's ultimately the level that Jesus is wanting to get us down to. And I guess just the other thought that comes to mind is that think of King David, like with his whole thing with Bathsheba, you got adultery and murder happening at the same time. And this was a man after God's own heart who wrote some beautiful psalms and some psalms of confession. And it's like, wow, like God's people really stuff up at times. And some people listening to this, I don't know, maybe some people listening have murdered or committed adultery and stuff, and it's not hopeless. God can redeem.
It doesn't have to be the end of you.
That's right.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, and I guess these days, when you think about what they were talking about then, these days your access to lust, I guess, with the digital, everything, it's like, it's a whole different world. So when people are looking at this, they're like, man, how do I navigate life with this kind of, I don't know, access or power? What does it look like to kind of follow these verses? What does it look like to gouge out my eye? What does it look like to cut off my hand? What does that mean,
Yeah. It'll be inconvenient. It'll be costly. It'll be painful, but it will help me to truly flourish.
Yeah, take action on something.
That's right.